Okay, right, I think it's going.
We are.
Hi
Yeah, we
guys.
are.
Yeah, we are now live. Hi guys, it's Nick here. Right, I've got another chat video lined up. I'm here with Zaheer today, who's a guy who's been subbed to my channel for a while, and I've been watching his videos for a while, since I guess it was last September sort of time. And he's recently gone full time. So hi Zaheer, can you give yourself a little bit of an intro and say hi to
Sure.
everyone?
Yeah, sure. My name's Zaheer. My YouTube channel is called Dingo Ate Your Baby, which is actually based on a little scene that me and my wife found really funny in Seinfeld, and it stuck. So you can see that I didn't make YouTube as a means to talk about reselling. Couldn't be further from the truth. Something I've just gotten into thanks to yourself, really, Nick. Where I've been making YouTube videos for ages. I love PCs. I love all this kind of malarkey for my computer. It's all lit up and green. Bit of a geek, kind of like having a Ford Escort, but all pimped out, as it were. And it's working for myself is something I've wanted to do for ages. I've spent most of my working life in retail, from Harrods to Dixon's to Harrods, should I say. And it never sat right, and I always had this horrible habit of working really hard initially and thinking I'm doing really well, getting bored and then wanting to quit, and it kept on happening and just moving from same job to same job. And then when I saw your videos, it kind of brought it all home that I can viably make reselling an actual job. And in October, I mean, after I'd thought about it a lot before from watching other YouTubers, especially from the States, but watching your videos made it really, it made it real, as I say, and I took the plunge in October. Thankfully, my wife's working really hard full time, which means I took the plunge. We are living, very carefully at the moment, but the future looks very bright, and the results I've seen already show that if you can extrapolate better results if I obviously start on a bigger scale. So that's who I am.
So you're full time yourself, and
Yes.
you're working, and that's working out okay so far. I mean, I know it's going to be tight at the beginning, for sure.
It is tight because my wife's working full time. I've just started to get to the point where I'm making, after all my fees, etc., what you'd call like a basic wage, but you're still then in the quandary because you want to reinvest some of that. So really, you feel like it's not as much as you were earning before because you want to keep going. But what I find, I suppose, is I'm one of those people that likes to be in a spot, I think, before I, it spurs you on, as it were. So, and there's no time like the present, and different people react in different ways. So I would not recommend this. I mean, like I said, every single job I've had, I've pretty much walked out of. Now, you'd never recommend that to anyone, and this started happening a long time before I thought of reselling. My first job, Dixon's, I walked out of that. Even Harrods, Nestle, EA, all these companies. Eventually, I get to the point where one day I wake up, and even though I'm married, I've got 2 kids, and it might sound really irresponsible, and on certain levels, it is irresponsible. I cannot abide it, and I think I think your police story kind of resonated with me a lot when you mentioned.
Your story really mirrors mine, because every regular job I had, I have literally walked out on. I've never been sacked. I've never switched jobs. I've just walked out.
I don't understand notice. I don't understand how people work notice as well. For me, it's such an alien concept. I'm sick of this place, and yet you want me to work another 4 more weeks. But again, it's horses for courses, and obviously, like, I wouldn't say that it's for everybody, but that it was a problem with me, and I saw it as, well, obviously something's not right. I'm normally, in other areas of my life, I'm rational. I'm, what I'd like to consider sane.
Well, I think it comes down to that you've got something inside you. You want to do your own thing. Maybe this is what it is. Maybe this is a stepping stone to something else. But I've always known being in a 9-to-5 job just made me
cringe.
Just eventually just made me freak out. Being told what to do by somebody I knew I could do a better job than, being a small cog in a big machine, it doesn't stick. Stressed out. And although working for yourself has its own stresses, believe you me, and you're probably finding that already, I find it's the sort of stress I can handle because I brought it on myself. But what I found being an employee was, you know, being told what to do and having that pressure of people judging you and watching you and all of that. That's real stress for me. You know, trying to fit into a role that I didn't really want to be in. It's just so stressful.
I completely can, you know, I resonate with that, because I feel that it's if you look at any industry out there, and this is when you start sitting there and philosophizing over it before you take the jump, and you sit there and you start thinking, any industry out there is to do with sales. You know, we're in our society, it doesn't matter what it is. Even when you see a flu jab commercial for the elderly, they don't care whether your granny gets a flu jab. What they care about is selling the right number of flu jabs to, you know, each surgery has a target of how many flu jabs that they can administer. And there's a reason for that, because somewhere in government, someone has made a deal with a company and bought X amount of flu jabs, and they need to, you know, make that pay. So somewhere a sale has happened, and you start thinking of it on those terms, and you start thinking that every job you've worked in, you've had a target. You know, you've had to be targeted. Even when I was working at Nestle selling chocolates, I had a target of how many boxes of Kit Kats this multi-billion-pound corporation wanted me to sell on my comparatively insignificant wage, and it gets to you.
Well, so, essentially, you are making money for somebody else.
Correct.
You are doing somebody else's bidding.
Yeah.
And depending on how comfortable you are with that, eventually you just go, no, I'm going to go and do my own thing. So if I mess up my own job, you know, that's my problem. But if I work really hard doing my own stuff and I earn a load of money, that's my money. It's not someone else's.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
And I think also it's more apparent now than ever that things like job stability, job loyalty, it's not there anymore. So my parents worked at the same job all their life, and you know, they managed to make it pay. Nowadays it's not the same scenario. People are switching jobs. Your job is not as solid as it was. So for example, the risk of going out on your own and you know finding that you're struggling, it's actually not so scary when you put it into that mindset, because you know, you're no more likely to have your job a year from now than I am to fail or succeed at this from a year from now. So you have to just choose what fits better for you. And for me, this excites me. It really does. It genuinely excites me. I've become like a specialist in so many different things that I wouldn't have thought I would ever become a specialist in, and it drives you to do it because the reason why you're doing it is because it's going to help you in the future. You know, if you'd said to me a couple of months ago, you know, will you know how to bring back most blackberries from the dead, I would have said no. Now you hand me a blackberry and I'll be able to reboot it and get it ready for sale, you know, ASAP. And it's a small thing, but it helps me, because when you see one, you pick them up at the auction or you pick them up at the boot fair, I know I can fix it. Learning about Kindles or learning about CD players, you know, things like that. You start picking up things and you start learning things. You learning about brands of things, and it just spurs you, because
one of the big things that I try and get through on my channel is, I mean, I have specialised in the past. I mean, for a year or so, we just did the clothing when I was helping Andrea run what is now her side of the business.
Sure.
And for about 6 months, I was a Lego specialist.
Yeah.
Trouble is, then I find boredom can set in, and it's also very hard to find enough of one product. But so I kind of espouse the sort of benefits of being a generalist, and like you said, you end up having loads and loads of knowledge about lots and lots of products. So when you go to a car boot sale, there will be 1,000 different things in my head that I know I can pick up and make money on, and that makes it so easy to pick up stock. I can go around the boot sale and fill up my car with stuff, whereas if I was a specialist in just mobile phones or just board games even, I'd struggle to find enough to turn over the sheer volume I have to earn a living.
Again, that is exactly it. I mean, when I was first, I mean, I've been going to boot sales for years, but like most people from our generation, it tended to be to look out for those video game bargains and things like that. And you know, you're missing out on so much, and you know, learning can be very fruitful because then like you said, your eyes are open to so much more, and you're able to just make you know, you're able to see a lot more. So even if you go to what's like a small boot fair, you might pick up things that other people are just going to waltz past, just because you have the knowledge. And you know, I think the beauty of what you've started with our little UK reselling YouTube community is that sharing of knowledge. And it's something that we touched upon just before, obviously, you know, we went live, as it were. Was, I think, the sharing these ideas is not dangerous. Sharing what works is not dangerous. It's not going to have a detrimental effect on what you're doing, because 99.9% of people that are watching this are probably just going to watch it and enjoy it, maybe to some level, find it slightly interesting and move on. I would gather maybe 0.1 or maybe a percent, if you're being generous, of people are actually going to take it to its final conclusion, and the chances of them doing that and then also being in your exact neck of the woods at the same time as you are, to have an effect on your business.
Well, people have, this thing has come up time and time again. People have messaged me on my YouTube, and people have mentioned it on the Facebook group, saying, Nick, why are you telling people all of these products that you find, all this knowledge that I've built up over the years? Why are you sharing that? Because you're creating competition for yourself. And my immediate answer to that is, if I was worried about competition, I wouldn't be a reseller, and I wouldn't be using the platforms of eBay and Amazon, because competition is absolutely rife. And you had it exactly right there. Things like Trivial Pursuit. I mean, there's not a lot of money in Trivial Pursuit. It's just another thing that I look for. But for some reason, loads and loads of people have picked up on that. And loads of people are reselling Trivial Pursuit on eBay now that weren't before. Yeah. But my influence isn't massive. I mean, let's not overblow the scale of what I'm doing here. You know, a couple of thousand people watch my videos, and you're right, out of those, maybe 1% will think, oh, I'm going to buy some Trivial Pursuit, and then maybe half of those will actually find some and stick it on eBay. And that's not going to make any difference. There's every day of the week, there's like 1,000 Trivial Pursuits on eBay anyway, so it's, you know, me sharing this stuff is not going to affect my ability to sell stock. Really isn't.
I mean, I watched a lot. I mean, in the past of I suppose motivational videos as well. And at first, I was a bit skeptical of like people like Tony Robbins and with their big brash personalities, and you know the things they talk about. And there's like Brian Tracy, and there's lots of other YouTube videos out there of these amazing people. Like Zig Ziglar is this like, amazing figure in the States who's like the salesman extraordinaire. And it's the life lessons that they can teach you. It's which can help you as well. For where I'm taking this is like it's maybe five. You know, it's not what happens to you, for example. It's how you react to something that matters. So, for example, if you're worried about competition, it's not the competition that should worry you. Competition happens. It happens, like you stated. It happens on eBay, happens on Amazon. It's more about what you're doing about it that's going to affect the result that you get. And it's little things like this, and it's hard for me to kind of bite-size it all, but if you start watching these things, and it really does work in your favor. And I believe there's something that people talk about called like the law of attraction, where you know you attract into your life the thoughts that you have, and it's one of those things where you know when people say, yeah, you make your own luck, it ties in with that. So for example, if you're thinking positively, and you want to do this, like I wanted to do this reselling business. I'm positive about it. I'm constantly thinking about it, especially at the moment, day and night. It's pretty much all I think about. I've stopped gaming. I've stopped doing anything else really, and I'm constantly thinking about it. Even when even when I'm listing items, I've got Facebook open for Facebook groups and things like that, and you will automatically, you'll find that if you're always thinking about it in a positive way, things do fall for you. Now I don't know, I'm not like a karmic or a supernatural kind of person, but it does seem to work. and a little example of that was just yesterday. I was listing some items, and I saw that on Facebook there was a lady selling this. This is a shelf a parcel shelf for a Vauxhall Zafira. Now, I don't have a Vauxhall Zafira, but I drove half an hour and picked it up. She was asking £5 on there. If I threw out a £3 offer, she accepted it. If you check out what a parcel shelf costs on eBay, it's going to cost you 30 to 50 quid. Now, that's not the story. The story actually is, when I went to collect the parcel shelf, there was a skip outside, and someone had thrown away a mint box for a PlayStation 2 Slim, which is what I had happened to pick up yesterday at the boot fair. Nice. With mint manual, with mint everything. Things will start falling in place. I mean, I remember when Man U were playing really well in the 90s, and everyone used to complain that they used to get 5 extra minutes of time every time. They used to get lucky with their 90th plus minute goals. And you'd say, was that just pure luck, or was it because that team was so motivated, had so much belief, that they influenced what happens? If you believe you're going to win right till the dying moment, chances are you are.
Well, my take on a lot of that is people sometimes look at me and say, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. You've got this business, and you're so lucky you did really well with the shop and all of this stuff."
Yeah.
And my view on that is, no. I worked my arse off for years and years and years. I didn't have Saturdays off for about 8 years. I went to boot sales every Sunday as well, and all of this stuff. And yeah, I made an awful lot of money when we had the retail outlet and bought our house and paid off the mortgage and all that stuff. But if anybody else had worked that hard, they would have had that success. It comes to you. You get out of it what you put in.
Yeah.
And that is the big part of what I love about working for myself is, if I have a week where I'm completely lazy and I don't do anything, I won't earn much. Whereas if I have a week where I bust the gut and I list 500 or 1,000 items, whatever I can manage to get on, that will then pay off over the next month. And I'll see the rewards of my work. So it's an instant, you get a reward for the amount of work you put in, for the amount of, and it's about finding stuff as well. People talk about how lucky you get when you go looking. That's not about luck as well. That's about putting yourself in front of as many stalls as you can as early as possible. And then when you've been around that boot sale, drive to another one and put yourself in as many. You've got to put yourself in that position to find the stuff. And your story about going to pick up that parcel shelf, I mean, that's showing invention, it's showing creativity. And then because you're there, you found that other product in the skip. And that's all your doing.
Yeah. Exactly. I think what you said about what you get out, you get out what you put in. That's often something that's told to you when you're employed. And I've heard it from many bosses in the past, and it never rang true. And this is the first time in my life it rings true, that you do get out exactly what you put in. Because like you said, it is exactly the amount of listings, the amount of work you put in will result in how much money you make. Whereas if I were working for someone, whether I work my arse off or whether I have a lazy day, I still get my salary at the end of the month. And I think that's,
when you're working for the man, the harder you work, the more he gets out of it. That's the difference.
Pretty much, exactly. So, and those things spur you on. Like, so for example, the parcel shelf, not something I'd normally sell, but a quick look on, it's there. A quick look on, we've got the internet. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you have one window open on a Facebook page, and you have a quick look on eBay, and you suddenly see, wait a second, that looks like it's being sold cheap. You go and get it. It's just about constantly looking.
Yeah. Do you find your brain has already looks at things a different way? You look at something that you wouldn't have even cared to look at before, and you think, okay, I can see that somebody out there would want that. Like the parcel shelf is a great example.
Yeah.
You look at it like, if I wanted to buy one of those, I'm sure that would cost me
this much,
50 quid new, 100 quid new. So secondhand, it's got to be worth 20 or 30. And you just start thinking like that about so many things. I mean, a lot of the items I show in my videos, I only pick those up because I tried it out once. or I took a chance once, or I happened to look up something random on my phone, and you go, ooh, that'll work, and then you just add it to the list of stuff. And I'm more than happy to share all those hints and tips.
I think that's it. It is pretty much about taking that chance of, with your gut. You have to accept that sometimes things are going to work out great, sometimes they're going to work out not so great. Recently, I've been dabbling in auctions, and on the whole, they've worked out pretty well for me. But there have been a couple of things. Yeah, auctions have now taken an online format as well. So, for example, it's kind of like you just go to the auction website. You bid on the item. Every time someone bids, it extends the time by 10 minutes to allow a competitor to bid for the item. If no one bids, then obviously after a certain time the auction ends. You get the item, you go and collect it. Now, the benefit, the downside of that is prices do tend to go higher than they would in a live auction. The good side of it, however, is it gives you plenty of time, plenty to research what you're buying, and that is invaluable. I mean, there are some things which have worked out, some that haven't worked out so well. For example, the alcohol meters worked out really well. Loads of phones have worked out well, things like that. But then I've taken a risk on a couple of routers, for example, like business routers. I don't know much about business routers. I know these work, they switch on, they're fine, they light up, the fans are working, they're in mint condition, and I know they're worth about £300, and I paid about £100. Now, I've now got to wait and see whether that works out for me or not. I think I've stuck one on eBay and I've stuck one on Amazon just to see, on what territory it goes better on. But if that works out, I'll be on the lookout for those. That will become a bollo for me, Otherwise, it won't. Similarly, I took a risk on some books, these like naval maritime books. They were at auction. They cost me a fair bit. But if they all sell, I'll make a good profit on them. But they've just sat on Amazon, and I'll see whether they go or not. And you've got to be brave enough to give that a go. And the more you do it, the more you'll pick up things. And for example, this is another Facebook find, a Quinny bumper bar. It's a bumper bar. What Quinny is like a fancy brand of pushchair buggy, and they sell and they sell a ton of accessories. And this is one of the accessories. So this is a bumper bar, and I got this for £5 off a Facebook group. Regularly £20 they sell for, and they sell quickly. And you'll learn. I mean, I've got no interest in pushchairs, but because I'm open, my mind is open, and partly by seeing your variety as well. It's good to have variety. I mean, the beauty of not having a retail store is, if you're going to be a general store, you're going to need a big store. You're going to need it organised in a certain way. It's much harder. Online, you can list a pair of jeans next to a tripod or something. It doesn't matter. It's not going to influence. It's not going to influence the shopper. Whereas on a high street, if a shopper's looking for a certain item, they're not going to want to get confused by the way your shop is laid out or looks. They want to know they're in the right place for the right product.
Yeah, you're right.
Different.
If my eBay store, my eBay store was a shop,
people wouldn't know where to start, would they?
Like, holy cow!
Exactly. And other things. There's another auction find. I picked up a lot of reel-to-reel Super 8.
Oh yeah.
And I got some 4-track as well. And they're all obscure orchestra pieces and things, but I paid like £12 for the bunch of them, and I've sold a couple for a tenner each so far, so they're working out okay. But I wouldn't have known that had I not tried. I don't know anything about reel-to-reel or 4-track or Super 8. It's before my time. I don't have a player to test it. But you can even put down. You shouldn't even be afraid to just describe the product honestly. And if someone wants it, they will buy. And again, this was a case of me looking at it thinking, someone out there will collect these because they look cool. That's the dirty dozen. It just looks cool. It's the kind of thing someone would want to collect. And so you just take a punt on it.
I think you're doing exactly. You're kind of taking educated guesses, as I would call it. You're taking you're kind of hedging your bets and thinking, I'm pretty sure there'll be some money in this, but then you're prepared to put your money where your mouth is and accept that there is a possibility you will lose out. And once you get past the fear of potential failure, then it frees you up to take a few chances, and you will learn. You will have a load of knowledge in your head now about reel-to-reel tapes and whatever those things are that you will take with you. And what I find is I don't really regret failures either, because when I buy stuff and it turns out I barely break even or even lose money on something, I've learnt a valuable thing there. I will avoid those forever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also when you buy something, let's say you buy something, you find out, okay, there's not really any money in that. In the process of looking that up and listing it and researching it, you'll find that oh, they don't make money, but this version or this brand does. And the amount of times I bought something, I can't give you an example off the top of my head, but I bought something and I've barely broken even and it was a waste of money. But I found out that if you buy a brand that's slightly different, or you buy older ones, or you buy more current ones, whatever it is, and then that goes in my list of things to buy, and then you've now got another product that you can make money on that you wouldn't have found out about if you didn't buy that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. If you hadn't taken the chance, I mean, most people at boot fairs walk past mobile phones now, unless they're touch screens. Someone sold this to me for, I think it was $150 or $250, I'm not sure. But if it works, I'm yet to try. I'm going to order a charger for it. They're only a couple of pounds off eBay. It's good money in these. There's an old, Ericsson phone, and it might work out for me. It might not. But if it does work out, it's going to work out in a big way. If it doesn't work out, I've lost the equivalent of a quarter pounder down my kebab shop. That's the way I like to think of things.
Exactly.
And if again, it's the mindset. When you were working for someone, your employer took risks. They have to take massive risks. They have to set up offices or shops, and you'll know this better than most. You have to put your money where your mouth is in a big way. You have to hire staff, and you're not guaranteed to make
no.
Let alone break even. And if you can't, and I think as an employee you're shielded from that, because you're going to get your monthly paycheck. But as soon as you realize that the cost for that security is that the monthly paycheck is never going to amount to the kind of money that you're looking for, because face it, that's why we're doing this, is because it's going to give you a quality of life that otherwise wouldn't really be achievable unless you were in a professional sphere. I mean, maybe I probably wouldn't look into reselling if I'd passed the bar and I was a lawyer. I probably wouldn't look into it if I was a doctor or a dentist. I'd be happy. But if for those of us that aren't and that are in like regular service industries, etc., and just like you said, just working as a very small cog in a big machine, you start thinking of these things and you actually realize the risks you're taking are just smaller scale risks that any company is taking out there. You're not much different than Amazon or than Tesco, or than you're just on a much smaller scale, but you still have to worry to more or less to a certain extent about those things. And even things such as electrical, you still have to make sure that what you're selling is safe. You can't, even though you're just a small-time person, you can't just exonerate yourself from selling something that could be potentially dangerous, because eBay have got guidelines, Amazon have got guidelines, so you're still bound by many guidelines, and just like a real business is. And as long as you think of yourself as a real business, hopefully it will work in your favor. And I've got to say it's been definitely something that I'm just you grow. You keep growing. You keep, like you said, you keep accruing knowledge. And the more knowledge you have, the better you feel about it. And especially when you it starts paying off, you think, oh, I'm onto something here.
Yeah. Well, I find for me, I mean, I've been self-employed for the last 13 odd years, and I just find that you get a lot of pride out of it. You get a lot of pride out of the fact that that money you see come into your account at the end of the month when you withdraw it from PayPal or however you choose to do it, you know that every pound in there only exists because of the decisions you made, because of the hard work you put in. And it's just a completely different way of being when you compare it to a salary, where like you mentioned before, in a salary job, you could think, I really can't be asked this month or this week, and you just plod along going through the motions. In my job, if I do that, that's reflected in my pay packet, if you like, at the end of the month. And my monthlies can vary wildly, believe you me. I mean, last December was amazing for us. January's been, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And while that's more to do with market, what I'm saying is my pay packet, that's my kind of inspiration to work hard. And that's what keeps me going, and that's what gives me the sense of pride in what I do, because how much I get out of it is reflected by exactly what I put in, and that's kind of partly what I enjoy about it, really. And it's also the challenge of that as well, and the underlying risk that at the end of this month I may have nothing to show for it. You know, that is potentially what could happen.
It spurs you on because, like you said, every month you start, you mentally reset yourself to zero. You know, you're like, okay, I had a bad month or a good month, and then the new month you're back at zero again. And I think, especially for me in my stage where I'm literally just fresh on this, obviously I'm going to have that enthusiasm to make it work. It's even more important to try to stay disciplined, because one of the big things that you have to try to get used to is your time. You know, and I've struggled with that since starting. You know, there are days where I'll be much more productive than other days, and again, I see that. The way I've managed to get around it recently is by taking bigger risks on items, like getting higher value items, more of them. You know, like the phones and things like that. But you can't function like that long term. Obviously, you need to have. You know, you need to be disciplined enough to be listing all your kind of your workhorse items, as it were, and consistently having listed them. And it frustrates you when you're sat there and you think in the evening, oh, I've got a box of jeans here that I know will make me a stack of money, and why haven't I bothered hanging them up and taking a photo? And it will eat at you way more. The guilt will hit you in the evening when you're sat there thinking, I really should do this, than it ever would for working.
All of that really, really rings true. I mean, like I say, I've been doing this for bloody ages, but the hardest thing, I'm not actually a very organised person, right? I mean, well, you can see some of the chaos here. And also, time management is the #1 hardest thing for me. Because there's 101 distractions. You know, there's the dog needs walking. You know, there's things like Bargain Hunt on TV that I could go and watch. You know?
Homes Under the Hammer for me. I mean, I love that.
And there's hot UK deals telling me that Tesco have got such and such on. Oh, there's about 10 Tesco's within half an hour drive of me. I could waste a day going on a wild goose chase for that stuff. And I love the hunt of finding stock. But the reality is I have thousands, literally thousands of things that I need to be listing. But that isn't exciting. That isn't fun.
But those are the things that I've got to really force myself to do, because, you know, when the months I've had, which I would consider, like, I had a decent December and I had a decent January. Like, by decent, I mean I was just getting to the stage where I could start calling it like some sort of wage. And after all your fees and everything, and I thought to myself, that could have been so much better, had I mean, because just looking behind you, like, you can see you've probably got thousands of pounds worth of kit just sat there, that just needs to be listed. But like you said, it's not exciting, but those are the things that I really want to train myself, and just have it in front of me, to know that I'm going to do X amount of those things a day, because you're right, there is a thrill of the hunt type scenario, isn't there? And I think sometimes that does overtake that. Looking for stuff it's always more fun. That's when the wife goes, "You're spending a lot. I don't see you listing much." And then
I was going to say earlier, when you said about you went out and came home with that parcel shelf, I was just picturing your wife's face. Hi, honey, I've got a parcel shelf.
Check it out. Good day's work, and it's one of those things. I mean, thankfully, family has been very supportive, and it is incredibly important. I mean, again, there's something I've picked up from these motivational speakers. They always say one of the most important things, and that there is that will affect you, not just in terms of your business, but in terms of life, is who you surround yourself with. And that often, I think, there was a guy called Jim Rohn, I think, that said it, that you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around with the most. So if you're hanging around, and that's why when you look over at like the US reseller community, and obviously now the UK reseller community, you can find you've got obviously that base common ground, and the more that you interact with each other and share with each other, I think it's only going to help spur and strengthen everyone. Whereas if you're hanging around people like, I mean, I've told friends and family, and they're like, yeah, but what if you don't sell anything? And I find that mind-boggling. I really do.
Those are the people who would never do it. They'd never have the balls to take the chance you have. They'll be happy in a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And they've probably got dreams about what they would love to do in the real world. Or they're the people that say, I really hate my job. I really hate my job. I go out to the pub and I chat to people. Yeah. And they say to me, I can't stand my job, I hate my job, blah, blah, blah. And I just say to them, well, leave.
Yeah, what have you done
to me about it?
Yeah.
I hated my job, so I walked out. And I know this isn't for everybody, but I can't stand people who have that sort of apathy where oh, life's a grind, life's this. Like, we are in control of our lives, and it frustrates me when people, like you said, are a bit down on what you're doing, or they can only see the negatives. This might happen, that might happen. And to be an entrepreneur and somebody who's going to really make a go of it, you have to say, oh yeah, all this crap could happen, but also it could work. I could do really well out of it. I could get a great sense of satisfaction out of it. And those are the things that you need to concentrate on. If I concentrated on the things that are going wrong and the things that might go wrong on a daily basis, I would just be a wreck. So I concentrate on what's going well and what I can achieve and the things I've done.
I mean, exactly. It's like, what if the sun doesn't rise tomorrow? I mean, you can't function like that. What if you just got lucky? And you do often think that there are, people. Obviously, everyone's different, like you said, but it's very much attitude based. And again, there's I keep on referring to these motivational type people, but I feel like plastering my walls, and sometimes I do, with all these quotes because they make so much sense. And there's like a little flow chart that I think Tony Robbins came up with, which was something along the lines of everyone's got a certain amount of potential. Everyone's got potential to do great things, right? So take that as a given. We've all got brains, we've all got potential. Now, it's something along the lines of how much you believe in yourself. It dictates how much action you're going to take. Now, so if you think, this is never going to work, you're going to take the kind of action. If somewhere in the back of your head you were thinking, I'm just trying to sell some stuff on eBay, but it will never sell, you're going to take the kind of action that's going to be based off of that belief of yours that it's not likely to sell. And then you're going to make a bad decision buying something that's not going to sell, that's not going to make you any money, and you'll get the result that you were almost expecting, and then you'll be like, I knew it wouldn't sell, and it just feeds on it. So it's like a vicious circle. But each time the circle goes around, you're just chipping away at your self-belief, and this stuff. It's.
I think a lot of working for yourself and having goals and trying to get to them, it's all about self-confidence. And believe it or not, I struggle with that. I always have done. I mean, like from being a teenager, I've had confidence issues, which might seem bizarre, because you watch my videos and all they see is the results and how well I've done and all of that. But, it's a cyclical thing. Sometimes I'm super confident about what I'm doing, sometimes I'm not. But I find the best way with self-confidence is to work. When you're not sure and you're having a down day, just bury yourself in the work. Start doing it, and it builds, and getting sales builds confidence, and then you put that back into buying more and listing it. And it's about action, really. What I'm trying to say is building your confidence. It's all about doing it, make it happen. That's kind of a very loose and rambling way of explaining. I think it's through action that you get results.
I think it sounds silly sometimes when you say these things, when you talk about these kind of motivational type things, but they're so important. When you haven't got someone on your back telling you today you've got to do exactly this, this, and this for exactly this many hours, you have to start thinking like you said, I've started thinking differently. I've had to start thinking differently. It's out of necessity, because I've got nobody telling me, okay, by 11 o'clock I expect you to have listed 30 items or taken 30 pictures, and by 12 o'clock I'm targeting you to have sold 3 things. No one's telling me any of this.
Yeah, I have to sometimes say by lunchtime.
Yeah.
Or no, what I say sometimes is I'm not allowed to have lunch until I have finished that pile of whatever.
Exactly.
Or if I get to, or I'm not allowed to stop working today until I finish that pile of books or whatever it is. And the weird thing is as well with listing, I find the thought of it is worse than doing it. Right, so if you start a day and you think, oh crap, I really need to list that. Like you said, jeans, they're a pain to list, they're a fiddle, so you keep avoiding it and doing other things. But once you get started and you've done your first listing and you get in that headspace, it's easy, and then you click through them. So it's the getting started, that's the hurdle for me. It's doing that first one. Once I'm over the first one, and then I get into a system and I get a template going, and it's like, it's easy, but it's fine for me. It's finding ways of easing myself in and getting the first couple of listings done, and then I'm fine for 4 hours.
Sure. I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, that's why I try to kind of surround myself with these positive messages and things, because it's positive thoughts and just taking inspiration. I mean, again, success does have a recipe to it, because if you look at people that are successful, they all are following they all share certain traits, they all share certain ways of doing things, and you've just got to be prepared to follow that recipe, and obviously you're going to adapt parts of it for yourself, but there is a recipe for it. Every company out there, every person out there that's making money is making money by following a simple recipe. And obviously, if you just boil it down, it's basically you buy something for X and sell it for Y, and there's a profit. That's basically what the basics.
Yeah, it is.
Really, there's nothing more to it.
Selling is all about two numbers. It's about what you pay for it and what you sell it for. And if you overcomplicate it and lose track of that, then you're missing the point. That is all we do.
But that's what humans do. We've got this horrible, massive brain with all these emotions and thoughts, and things like confidence that you have to contend with, things like belief in yourself, things like what will other people think of you. All of these things. All of these things will come into your human brain. You're not a machine that can just say, oh, all I've got to do is buy something for £10 and sell it for 20. What's so complicated? Life's easy. Everyone should be doing it. And yes, in theory, everyone should be doing it. But the brain gets in the way, and that's what you've got to learn to, I suppose, train. It's like a muscle. Just get it in the right headspace, as people say, and work from there. And I think, like, watching the videos, watching all the other videos that have come up as well, all the other guys that have popped up, because so people like Joe and Tom, and there's so many other people now that are making videos, and it's lovely to see, because then you can watch it and it puts you back in track. There's a guy in America that I watch called Raking Profit. This guy's brilliant. I mean, he deals mostly in clothes, but he's like the typical American enthusiastic type personality that you expect, and I love that. I absolutely love that. And you watch his videos, and it's like, I'm gonna get up and do something. And as silly as that sounds, you've got to do that sometimes. Especially me. My personality is very much, I'm laid back. Honestly, I'm very, very, very laid back, to the point of I need a kick sometimes. And
I'm the same. I can lie in the mornings. Believe you me. I don't have anyone apart from my wife.
Yeah,
she's out of bed. I'm a morning person, but I'll lie in bed, and it's terrible, because then I am frustrated when I get up, because I've wasted that time.
Fine. Yeah.
But yeah, going back to the videos, I do watch a lot of videos. Obviously, I love Dallas Moore. I find an inspiration. I don't know if you've watched him.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people have warmed to my videos and been watching mine, because it just shows you what's possible. I'm just an average guy in my garage selling random crap. And I think people have just, responded to that and said, hang on, I can do that. And you can, and that's what I keep telling to people.
Yeah.
You can do this. Nothing I do is that complicated. I've got some good ideas, I've got some skill that I've built up over the years, but that's all learnable.
It comes with it.
And you put that. I mean, I don't know when you started making eBay videos, but I think I spoke to you really early on when you made your first one. It was only like September or so, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It was very recent. Yeah, September, I think it was. I think so. Yeah.
And look how far you've come already.
Yeah, exactly. I've gone from someone that had a very narrow field of view to now I can be on the lookout for so many different things, and I've learned to trust my gut. But I think one of the things that you shouldn't underestimate, and is the fact that because you're doing it in the UK, that for me anyway was quite a big thing, because as a Brit, you're like, oh, in America it's different, it's the land of opportunity, and so much bigger, so many more people there. They have thrift stores where they buy by the pound, not per item, and it's true. All those things are true.
Yeah.
But things are different over there. Maybe you wouldn't get the same value for items over there for certain items that you do over there, and vice versa. And it's just about adapting. And I think you coming out and actually showing people that you've made a viable business in the UK doing this, and look, lo and behold, there's a bunch of other people that are also doing it, and like you said, on the Facebook groups, and it's a very powerful tool, having this community, I think, and it's a great resource for, it's a great resource. I mean, I think over in the States, where I've been following it for a bit longer than here, was there's a group of guys. I've got like a thing called the Green Room, which is like a Facebook or a Hangout, and they actually charge people to have access to it because oh, well done. Yeah, I know that sound. Okay, and they charge people to join the room, which I wouldn't condone, to be honest, but it just shows that they're just taking it. How I feel is that they've created something like an amazing resource that people are willing now to pay money to have access to. And
there's been conversations about that sort of thing recently, and the fact that, to be perfectly honest, the stuff that I'm giving away, all this information, is quite valuable stuff, because people are making money off the back of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But the thing is, to my mind, that's the point. I don't care that some guy in Wales is making a load of money on some tip I gave him, because I was never going to go to that charity shop in Wales and find whatever it is. I was never going to be at a car boot sale in Dorset. I can't take advantage of all of these things, and I'm more than happy for anyone to come on and watch my videos and make 50 quid or make £100 or turn it into a business. It's not going to affect me. And you mentioned karma early on.
Yeah.
I don't really buy into that whole thing, but I understand the concept, and I've seen it more than ever with this whole video thing. I didn't come into this video thing to get anything out of it, but I have got so much out of this. I've got some people I would class as genuine friends now. I've had so much inspiration just from people saying, like yourself, that I know I've helped. Yeah. Weirdly, that inspires me to be better. It inspires me, and it gives me confidence. I've got so much confidence out of making these videos because I've helped other people. It sounds odd, but I would say I've gained more out of these videos than anybody else. That's how I feel, because it's helped me.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I think it is a symbiotic thing, because you're helping people such as myself, everyone else that's benefited, and then we're putting back in as well. People are coming in all the time now with different things to look out for that I wouldn't look out for. So my knowledge it's like it's on a plate now, really, isn't it? If you watch a few of these videos, you could go from being a complete novice to having a list. All you need to do is sit down with an A4 piece of paper with a bam, 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 and you'd have a list length of your arm of items that you could look out for that are regularly available, and you could have a basis there of something to enjoy. And like you said, you seeing you're kind of seeing results of your videos as well, which is kind of nice, because you're like, like what? And not only that, the popularity of your channel as well is testament to karma, as I would see it. Is it's growth, it's popularity, and eventually that could become an income stream in itself. As it has done. Again, I keep on referring back to the States, but I feel that they've got a far more established. I could be wrong, but I feel like they've got a far more established kind of community or scene, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that have now made this an arm of what they do. One of the many things that they do. So alongside Kindle publishing.
The funny thing is, I started watching videos exactly the same as you. I watched all these American guys, your Rake and Profits, and who's a bona fide hustler.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, they were the ones.
And that's what inspired me to make my first video, because I was getting a lot of hints and tips. Gil Daddy is another one.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was good.
I made good money on a handful of tips that I got directly. I can accredit to him, and I felt almost bad that I was getting all this free information, and that's what inspired me to very nervously make a couple of videos, and just to put something back in. You know what I mean? And now it's almost like I feel I'm the center of this little community that's happened on the back of that decision I've made. I mean, there was always Tom, who I class as a friend now, and hopefully we're going to meet up soon. But since I came on board, and then there's Joe, Chris Pine, whose videos are fantastic, and the likes of yourself and others, we've now, from me watching this American community, I've kind of inadvertently kicked off this UK one, and I find that so amazing to me, because this is just me sitting in my garage making random videos.
I mean, but that's the difference, isn't it? It's taking, you took action. I've been watching videos for ages. It would never have occurred, because I was working at the time, and I was just resigned to working. So I was watching these things. Somewhere, I suppose it was going in, but it's the fact that you took action, I suppose, and there's another example of it, isn't it? That you've got to it's your mindset. You see it, but you've actually got to act on it, and the fact that you saw that and thought, actually, it's something I can give back, and it was almost like the groundwork was there, but it was all underneath, as it were, and then you've managed to bring it all out, which is fantastic.
Well, one thing I heard, I can't remember who said it, but it's the power of saying yes. I kind of said, people are making videos, shall I do it? And I just said yes, and it's the power of, like you say, essentially taking action and doing things. And that's a big key with being self-employed. It's all about action. That's what I was trying to get at earlier with the whole confidence thing. When you're on a slump in your confidence or your energy, the way out of that is to just take action.
Yeah.
Start listing something, start sorting something out, and before you know it, that brain fog you were in has gone. It's all about taking action and motivating yourself, and it all comes down to motivation as well. You've got to find that somewhere, and that's what I use a lot of the videos for. If I'm having a down day, I can watch a video and think, oh my God, he's sold a lot of crap. I need to sort myself out,
Sure.
And it helps.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've got to say it's literally been life-changing for me. So I'm actually really enjoying it, and I can only hope to just keep powering on. And I need to. My aim now really would be to get up to getting like 500-600 listings, like yourself have. I use you as a barometer, obviously. It's true, isn't it? There's no shame in saying that. Exactly. Just like you, I look at the others and I'm like, that's where I want to be. It's aspiration. It's all about aspiration. I mean, again, Tony Robbins once was doing one of these little talks, and he was like, I thought I'd made it. I moved my house into this amazing, my family into this amazing house overlooking the sea, and it was brilliant. He just, when he first started to get, his wealth from the work he does, and he went to one of his clients who was a billionaire, and he took him to his wine cellar, took him around his house, and suddenly he felt what he had was nothing. Or it went instantly from being his greatest achievement to, and not because it's nothing, but just because he saw what else is achievable, and because he's got that mindset of constantly improving and pushing himself, you know, it's great. I mean, you won't get anywhere by just sitting still. I mean, I'm sure you don't sit there thinking, you know, otherwise you wouldn't have. Again, you've got that mindset, because otherwise, why on earth? A lot of people will be thinking, why on earth would you bother now going into bricks and mortar again?
I know. Well, I'm a serial kind of a kind of serial entrepreneur, if you like. I get something, I create it, and make it work. But half my brain is already here doing something else. And while that does push me on, it can be a fault as well. You know, sometimes I don't concentrate enough on what I'm doing at that moment. I'm already thinking about the next project. But that's what keeps my life exciting. That's what keeps what me and the wife do on a daily basis interesting. I mean, my life is fun. My life is a challenge. My life is all those things. And sometimes I look at, like I said before, friends who moan about their work and how boring it is. I just think, change it. You know, you can do it. You can do what you like, and you only live once. I mean, let's not get too deep, but you only live once. So take a chance, people. Give it a go.
Definitely. Well,
anyway, I'm going to have to wrap this up because my wife's come home and I need to go and get some lunch.
Fair enough. Okay, brilliant.
But it's been an absolute joy, and hopefully we'll hook up again. I think we can do these chats with like 3 or 4 people, can't we?
You can, yeah.
So I don't know how that would work, but maybe we could get Tom in on one. Yeah. Joe, Chris Pine, we've been trying to hook up to do a chat as well. So I'll probably do a one-on-one with Joe and find out his story as well. But then maybe we'll get together and have 3 or 4 of us and have a chat sometime.
Brilliant. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and thanks again, Nick, for having this platform. It's been brilliant, and hopefully everyone can see me journey on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to seeing how your journey pans out, and like you said about our plans with the shop, I'm going to make a whole load of videos about that. I mean, that's a huge gamble and a huge risk, and I'm prepared to show everyone me potentially failing miserably. You know, I don't care.
But if you learn from it, that's the thing. You can learn from it, and it's.
Anyway, cheers to here. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'll speak again soon.
Cheers. All right, cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Take care.